Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, February 28, 2018 meeting of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee. My name is David Campos. I'm the chair of the committee, and I'm calling this meeting to order. If we can have a roll call. Thank you. From member Crow.
Hi, I'm sitting in for Francis as secretary tonight. Member Alexander? Member Alexander?
Excuse.
Excused. Member Aliota?
Excuse. Oh, you're here. Okay, great.
Present by proxy. Member Baraka?
Here.
Present. Member Breed? Member Breed?
I think we're going to excuse member Breed. I think there is a mayoral forum.
Okay, excused. Member Campos?
Present.
Present. Member Cohen? Member Cohen? Absent. Member De Jesus? Member De Jesus?
I think she's on her way.
Okay. Member Defty?
We have a proxy,
Proxy.
but he's not here yet.
All right. Member Farrell? Member Farrell? Present. Member Fewer? Present. Member Galata?
Present.
Member Grove here. Member Gupta?
Present.
Member Francis Shea?
Present by proxy.
Proxy. Member Tom Shea? Member Tom Shea? Absent. Member Jung? Member Jung? Excused.
Excuse.
Member Kim?
Excuse.
Excused. Member Lacroix?
Present.
Present. And Member Lowe? Member Lowe, absent. Member Mahogany? Present. Member Mandelman? Member Mandelman?
I think he's on his way.
Okay. And Member Maxwell? Present. And Member Norton? Member Norton? member in absence. Member Peskin?
Present.
Present. And member, great, and that is it for roll call.
We can actually go for the ex officios.
Yes, member Pelosi? Member Pelosi? Member Spear?
Present.
Member Wiener? Member Wiener? Member Chu? Present. And member Ting?
Present.
Great. Before we move on to the approval of the...
I'm so sorry, member Feinstein. Member Ma. Apologies, I'm doing it from memory.
Before we move on to the approval of the meeting agenda, I do want to note that I will be asking at the end of the meeting that we adjourn in the memory of Sharon Hewitt. Just wanted to note that at the beginning. With that, we'll move to item number 2, which is the approval of the meeting agenda. You have the meeting agenda before you. If we can have a motion to approve the agenda. Okay, motion by member Fewer, seconded by member Gupta. Do we have any amendments to the agenda other than adding the closing in memoriam for Ms. Hewitt? Member Galan.
Since member De Jesus is not here yet, I believe that the resolution, item number 13, the resolution in support of youth justice reform, I would like to remove from the agenda tonight as it's not ready for discussion.
So we have a motion to amend by removing that item from the agenda. Is there a second? Second by member Baraka. If we can take that amendment without objection. So we have an amended meeting agenda. We can approve that without objection. Without objection, the agenda is approved. We will now go on to item number 3, which is the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting of January 24th, 2018. You have the minutes have been attached to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Motion by member Lacroix, seconded by member Mahogany. Any amendments to the minutes? Okay, we can take that without objection. Without objection, the minutes of the January 24th, 2018 meeting are approved. Now we'll move on to item number 4, and this is, from our perspective, one of the most important parts of the agenda, which is when we hear from members of the public. And I want to thank all the members of the public that have come out to the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee. Under our rules, each of you gets 1 minute to speak, and we have a timekeeper here, our executive director, who will give you a sense of when your time might be coming up. And so if you could please come up to the podium, and as I call your name, if you could please line up. And you don't have to necessarily come up in a particular order, but I will call out the names of the people who have signed up. Susan Pfeiffer, Huisan Balouf, Mark Rannenberger, Lisa Dewberry, Ben Terrell, Bruce Agate, Nancy Tung. Go ahead.
Keeping my jacket, is this on?
Keeping my jacket on because it tends to get really cold in here. I'm still recovering from last time. You should all have one of these on the table in front of you. If you don't, let me know. I'll get you one. You want to come to this. I know the date is tricky, but we're working around it. This is a one-day conference bringing together all of the resistance groups, but also this is open to clubs and any Democrat that wants to work on winning the midterms. It's a training, there's speakers, there's workshops, breakouts. We have State Controller Betty Yee is going to be a keynote speaker. Donnie Fowler, who's speaking later tonight, will be a keynote speaker. Eric Swalwell, the congressman on the the committee in Washington that's looking into Trump's work with the Russians. And the closing speaker will be Dan Pfeiffer of Pod Save America. But really share this with people. There's a new version of this coming out because this is going to be an important way that we're going to take back Congress. We need an army, we want to train them, and we want you to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. And I'm going to read a couple more names. Eric Dew, Tyra Fennell, Derek Lee.
Good evening. My name is Quezon Malouf. I am running for San Francisco Superior Court Judge here in San Francisco. Just a little bit about me. I am a native San Franciscan, born and raised. I went to public high schools, all my education public schools. I've been a public defender for 17 years in San Francisco. I was a public defender in Alameda County for 3 years, so I've been defending people's constitutional rights for over 20 years. I'm running in San Francisco because I believe communities in San Francisco should be guaranteed equal protection under the law. And I understand that justice is a matter of human dignity and everyone deserves respect. Only have 30 seconds, so I'll make it really fast. Public safety is our #1 concern, and public safety can be achieved while saving taxpayers' dollars and making our communities safer, depending on the programs. I look forward in meeting every single one of you, and I will be asking for your endorsements. Many of you I've already met, but I hope to meet the rest of you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. We have Kevin Bard, Linda Colfax. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Dewberry. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lisa Dewberry. A member of your committee asked to hear from lawyers who appear before Andrew Chang, Cynthia Lee, Curtis Carnell, and Jeffrey Ross. I am a criminal defense attorney of 37 years, and I practice in San Francisco before the Superior Court. I have appeared before every judge challenged. Each of them is more than qualified to sit on the bench, and each of them is well respected by seasoned defense attorneys and prosecutors. I want to tell you about my experience with Judge Ross. He is meticulous. I tell my colleagues that when they go into his courtroom to be well prepared, because he is well prepared. He keenly reads everything submitted to him. He carefully evaluates all the evidence put before him, and as a result, his decisions are rock solid. He is creative. Case settlement is an art. It is a balance of serving the law and doing justice. Judge Ross works hard at this, and he works hard to forge alternatives to state prison and to ensure immigration safe outcomes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a couple more names. Lisa Dewberry.
That was me.
Okay. Elizabeth Zara. And I apologize if I mispronounced the name. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. I'm technologically challenged. My name is Van Terrell. I'm the secretary of the Redstone Labor Temple Association. And I am here to urge the DCC to support the resolution that would offer support to the Redstone building, which is in the middle of area of massive gentrification, and buildings are being flipped, and it's a community hub. There are several dozen community groups in the building. We want to preserve it for Latino community resources and for neighborhood activists, and the people that are now in the building that are doing good work for the community. We don't want to see it sold and made into a high-end group hub or high-end condos. So thanks for your time, and urge you to support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A couple more names: Erica Tigerser, Eric Silver, and Carl Freeman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Zare. I am an attorney in San Francisco. I live in District 3, and I also have my office at Financial District. I'm running for judge, seat number 9. I am currently working as a judge pro tem at San Francisco Superior Court. I also sit as a commissioner at the Assessment Appeals Board, and I also have my private practice. In my private practice, I have done litigation in civil complex, civil business litigation. I've done construction defects. I have done mediations, and I've also argued cases before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals successfully, and I've also successfully argued cases before California Court of Appeals, and I am hoping to get your vote soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, we have members Mandelman, Lowe, and Alexander who have come in. Next speaker, please. Oh, and De Jesus as well.
Good evening. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair Campos, DCCC members. My name is Bruce Agate. I'm the president of the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club. We are here tonight to respectfully request chartering of our club. Our goal is to increase political activism and engagement in supervisorial districts 3, 6, and 10. Our districts are accommodating a majority of the growth in the city over the next 20 years. And with this growth, we must ensure we have complete communities, addressing issues pertaining to quality of life, public safety, homelessness, affordable housing, transportation, education, open space, environment, and workforce development. To ensure this occurs, we need to strengthen our political voice. We can do this by complementing the great work which is currently being done by existing organizations. We look to organize around issues which cut across the 3 districts. We will engage new members, provide new leadership opportunities, and support our communities through voter registration, education events, political organizing, and getting out the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, members of the DCCC. My name is Nancy Tung. I'm the Director of Public Safety, Quality of Life, and Homelessness Issues for the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club. I'll start out by saying that I'm a political nerd. I have been very content to sit on the sidelines up until the presidential election in 2016, which I think motivated me to become more active in my communities. And today I am making my first public comment. Under the leadership of our president, Bruce Agate, we've kicked off our membership and begun the work of crafting policy positions that will help our neighborhoods flourish, addressing issues that come along with growth and tackling existing entrenched problems. Our board is a diverse gathering of people, as we'll see during this public comment period, of many different backgrounds and experiences, which also reflects the diversity of our city. I think the most important part of this club is that we recognize major issues affecting San Francisco can be bigger than just a single neighborhood and transcends political boundaries. Working together, we will make a difference for all neighborhoods in districts 3, 6, and 10. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations on your first public speaking here. Next speaker.
Good evening, Chairman Campos and members of the DCCC. It was great to be with a number of you this last weekend in San Diego, the Democratic State Convention. I don't know about you all, but I feel very happy to be in California and to be a California Democrat and a San Francisco Democrat at that. It's also my honor to be here and to also speak in favor of endorsing our club, the San Francisco Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club. Well, hopefully a Democratic Club after tonight. My name is Mark Randberg, and I'm the Vice President of the new club for Policy and Advocacy. I'm also a self-styled policy nerd and wonk, and it's exciting for me to be able to take the leadership role in this club in the areas of quality of life, the environment, workforce development, transportation, public safety, and housing. And we chose those issues very purposefully for these 3 districts, 3, 6, and 10. These are the fastest growing districts in the city and thus disproportionately affected by some of the stresses from these different policy areas. And what's unique about us is I think we want to try to bring together the different competencies and all the different neighbors and their perspectives across these 3 districts into hopefully coming up with some community-oriented solutions around these issues areas. So I want you all to know my door is open and I'm available to you anytime to answer questions, and I hope you'll share our club.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, and we welcome very important person in the San Francisco labor movement.
Thank you, Chair Campos. Listen,
Yes. So my name is Connie Ford. I am a Vice President of the San Francisco Labor Council, and I'm mostly here to support item number 7 on your agenda, which is Laura Jo Fu coming towards Working America. The Labor Council and Working America is going to be working together in order to go to the Central Valley this spring, this summer, this fall, to really try to make a difference in who's going to be there in Washington, D.C. We know it's a tough fight. We know we have a lot of issues here today, but just to expand your horizons, I remember in 2010, I'm not sure your official title, Mr. Peskin, but in 2010, Mr. Peskin and I worked with the Democratic Party and Labor to do some miraculous things and to change San Francisco politics for a while. Now, I would venture to say, and Campos, I would venture to say that we could do the same thing in going to the Central Valley. And so when Laura Jo Fu, who's not here tonight yet,
Thank you.
I hope she comes and we will be working on this together.
Thank you very much.
there'll also be a Rock the Congress.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Honey, traffic is bad. They closed roads. Pardon me? Traffic is horrible. They closed roads. Okay. I just wanted to say hello to Elizabeth, who I haven't seen her baby yet.
Hi, my name is Eric Dew. I am a resident of District 3, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Eastern Neighborhood Democratic Club. I'm a member of the Eastern Neighborhood Democratic Club, and we are looking for you to charter us for this year. I just want to be quick about this. I don't need to take on the whole time. About a year ago, I wasn't even a member of the Democratic Party, but having seen what has happened since the 2016 elections, I felt it's very important to become more active in the Democratic, well, just in the political process altogether, not just within the Democratic Party. And so I have become more involved in it since the 2016 elections, and I joined the Democratic Party last year, sometime mid-year. My decision to come here is to speak on behalf of the Eastern Neighborhood Democratic Club, and I would hope that you will charter us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Derek Lee. I'm the Vice President of the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club. I'm born and raised San Franciscan, lived my entire life in North Beach, proud product of our public schools. And I've been involved in politics here quite a few years now, but I think what's great about our clubs, we had a kickoff and I just saw so many different faces that I've never seen before. I think the Eastern neighborhoods are some of the most diverse neighborhoods, and I think we're all about representing that and different opinions and as well as the culture. Hopefully, I hope that you all vote for chartering and also join us as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Tyra Fennell, Baby West Point resident. First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. And I too am speaking on behalf of the San Francisco Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club in support of its chartering. When I was approached to join this club by my neighbor, DeAndre Brookder, who couldn't be here tonight, and Bruce Agate, our president, I just thought, sweet Jesus, we're not another Democratic club. But what I love about this Democratic club is that it pulls together, as others have said, districts 3, 6, and 10, which also connects equity along the Eastern corridor. I also like the diversity of our leadership, which is sure to spill over into our larger constituency across the Eastern neighborhoods.
So for that reason, I think this is a very important Democratic Club to bring to fruition in San Francisco, and I hope the chartering meets your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Bard. I'm the Vice President internal of the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club. That's why I'm here. We voted in December of last year to add the name queer to our name. Ironically, the first time I ever came to a DCCC meeting was through Sharon Hewitt. I believe Don Price was the executive director at the time, so that's for Sharon. I ran for this esteemed body once, and one person actually called me a queer candidate, and I kind of liked it. And then that should explain why the membership voted to add the name queer to our name. We wanted to represent LGBT folks who do not want to serve under a binary set of gender standards and want to support LGBT folks who do not have heteronormative benefits and privileges. So that's why we've added the name. Hopefully it will not be a controversial rechartering. I've been sweating a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen with this vote, but I believe we earned the right to be rechartered as the LGBTQ Harvey Milk Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Linda Colfax, and I stand before you for the first time since 2010, when I sought your endorsement. I was a longtime public defender, and I was running for an open seat on the Superior Court. Today, I come with two messages, but I'm afraid I'll only have time for one, and that is to support all of my colleagues, and I particularly want to talk about Jeff Ross, because I've had a unique opportunity to watch Jeff in practice, which we don't usually get to do as judges. I sit on the appellate panel with him, and so we hear cases as a panel. I see how he treats everybody who comes into court, the attorneys, staff, litigants. Probably half of our cases are self-represented litigants, and he is compassionate, he is patient, he is exacting on the details when we are writing our opinions. He is collaborative. He's not afraid to change his mind. He listens. And I ask myself and you, what more would you want in a judge who appears, I'm going to be cut off, than someone who possesses all those qualities? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Welcome back. Thank you.
My name is Carl Kramer, San Francisco Living Wage Coalition. I'm speaking to item number 10, resolution in support of the Redstone Labor Temple building that's drafted by Francis Shea. It'll be presented by Elizabeth Alexander tonight. This should be a no-brainer, really. This was similar resolution was passed by the San Francisco Labor Council. It's speaking to the historical importance of the building. It was built by the San Francisco Labor Council in 1914, but the current importance and why it would have such a profound effect on San Francisco politics if we lose this building. And this is, we've lost so many community centers, buildings that house nonprofit organizations, particularly social justice organizations, worker advocacy organizations. In the Redstone building, we have probably a very unique organization that is Latino and Latina transgenders, and we have, this is an important building to save.
Thank you very much. And I have another speaker, and I apologize if it's hard to read, but it's Michael Armstead. Go ahead, next speaker.
Hello, my name is Michael Amster, and I'm a law student at UC Hastings, and I'd like to take the opportunity to share with you some work that I've done on a bill idea that I've been advocating for, and I think it's incredibly important to get enacted. Basically, what I have been working to do for the past year is try to convince a legislator to introduce a law in the state capitol to make it illegal for ICE agents to misrepresent themselves as police officers. I believe this thing would be incredibly important and incredibly valuable and enhance public safety right away. California became a sanctuary state, it doesn't matter if we're a sanctuary state if people still believe that police and ICE are working together. What this bill would do is make it illegal for ICE to create such confusion. So if there's anyone here who would like to help me make this a reality, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Erica Trageser, and I'm here talking for Laurel San Francisco, a Democratic club that may be chartered with your support. Laurel's San Francisco is a club that advocates for defending and expanding public higher education. We want to help members become active members of the Democratic Party and leaders by allowing them to advocate for their own interests within higher education. And we're committed to making our club democratic, transparent, inclusive, and accessible to make participation easy for our members. I hope you'll support us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
It's a little bit short, so I'll just kind of get you up here if that's okay. How's everyone doing? Esteemed members of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee, my name is Eric Silver, and I am the president of Laurel San Francisco. I come before you to respectfully request a charter. Laurel's is a different kind of Democratic club. We know of clubs whose advocacy centers the environment or gender and sexual minorities, and even those that advocate for pot. But we don't know of any Democratic club here or anywhere that advocates for institutions of public higher education. Thank you. And we have the conviction that such a club needs to exist now more than ever. We think that these institutions are uniquely threatened with the administration we have, and we feel that there's a real need for students to get involved in the political system and for members of the community to get involved in advocating for the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who has not spoken who would like to speak? If so, please come on up.
Buenas tardes, good evening. My name is Maria Evangelista, and I'm the daughter of immigrants who came to this country to work as farm workers, and they never had schooling, and because of that, they were made sure that I got to have the American dream. I am a public defender and I've been an attorney for 14 years. I've tried over 50 cases in front of San Francisco juries, and I myself am a San Franciscan native who grew up in South of Market. And I can tell you that after so many years, it's my wish and my hope and my dream that the San Francisco bench reflects the population that it serves and that it applies the law equally to everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I've decided to run. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you. I've met many of you already, and I'm extremely proud to be here. I'm humbled to be here, and I look forward to being a public servant of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. Thank you for a moment of your time. My name is Jeff Ross. I am a judge of the Superior Court, and I'm proud to be one. I'm a son of a refugee, someone who came here to find freedom. He became a lawyer, and then his idea was to teach people how to know what their rights were. That's what my dad did. He wrote and he lectured, but most of all, he had a newspaper column in a Spanish newspaper to teach immigrants about the law. What I've tried to do as a judge is the same thing. When people come before me who don't speak English, whether it's the traffic or elsewhere, I try to make sure they understand what the law is all about. I started my career as a criminal offense lawyer, and I did that for 34 years before I joined the bench. Most recently, I was the judge of the Veterans Justice Court. The Veterans Justice Court treats veterans, gets them housing, does everything we can to return them to society and to thank them for the work that they did for us in the service, and most of all, to treat the mental illness and the drug addiction that is a product of their service. I look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other member of the public who has not spoken who would like to speak? Seeing none, that closes public comment, and hopefully any of the existing judges or future judges that I cut off won't remember that when I appear before them. So thank you very much for coming to speak to the Democratic Party. Colleagues, before I move on to the next item, I'd like to take one item out of order. Hopefully there's no objection. That's item 12. It's a resolution in support of the Redstone Labor Temple. It's a resolution that was put together and presented by members Francis Shea and Alexander. And member Alexander was here with one of the most recent additions to, okay, so she's not, okay. We will take that up in out of order at some point. With that in mind, we'll go to item number 5, and that is reports. And we will begin with, and by the way, to my colleagues, we have a targeted amount of time in terms of moving for each item so that we can move the meeting forward. So let's do our best to stick to that. So we have 25 minutes for the next item, which is reports from the various officers. And beginning with the chair's report, and I want to note a couple of things. First of all, as you know, a number of us went to the State Democratic Convention, and I want to thank all of you who went and all of you who sent proxies and were involved. I also want to thank our executive director, Adam Mayes. We actually had T-shirts that we were selling, and the Proud to be San Francisco Democrat T-shirts were a big hit. And we are ordering more so that we have them available for sale at the upcoming mayoral debate that is happening on March 8th. But I am very happy to see that there was a real interest on the part of everyone at the convention to wear the Proud San Francisco Democrat T-shirt. We also had a retreat, actually, the first that I remember for as long as I've been on the DCCC. And we have Javita Ross, who was the facilitator for the retreat, who is here. And I wanted to give her a very brief opportunity to speak just about what happened at the retreat, and a number of you were there. But the objective of the retreat, besides giving us an opportunity to get to know each other better, was also to facilitate a process where we can prioritize objectives and goals for the remainder of the year. And to that end, Javita wanted to add a couple of things following up on the retreat. And I think the key here is 2018 is a very important year, a lot going on, and it's important that we are proactive, and that requires that we prioritize. So with that, Javita, thank you very much for doing a very good job herding cats, which is essentially what you were asked to do.
So it was my pleasure to facilitate the retreat on February 4th, I believe. It was the afternoon of the Super Bowl. So we had some competition for attention. We did a little work on getting to know each other as people and what is important to the members of the committee, just to understand each other a little bit more and what brings each of you to the work. And out of that, there was actually some interest in continuing that conversation and together coming up with some shared values for how you want to work together. Or you could think of that as some principles for your work together, or kind of standards of practice. And that can be really useful, when times are easy, things are easy. And when there's disagreements, it's useful to have some pre-established guidelines about how you'll work through disagreements and how you'll handle that and what's important to you in the process of handling that. So at the retreat, folks asked if I would come and share a little bit about how you might come up with those principles. And I've seen this done a couple of different ways. One way is to do, much like we did on February 4th, to do a participatory process where everyone who comes helps to generate something, and together you winnow that down to a shared statement. And then another alternate way of doing it is to have a smaller subcommittee do some lead thinking and bring that to your colleagues for review and feedback and refinement. And then with that lead thinking, also generate some proposals about how you want to put it into practice. So I'd be happy to advise either way, offer some guidelines about or direction about how you might go about that. And then we also at the retreat did a SWOT analysis, and from that, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, came up with what are some of the priorities that you want to move forward in the coming year together.
Thank you very much. I thought it was a very fruitful conversation, discussion, and what we will do is we will be in touch with the rest of the committee in terms of next steps as we move forward to identify those principles and identify those priorities. So thank you, Javita, and we look forward to continuing to engage you in that effort. Thank you very much. If we can give her a hand for that. And then I will close my report with this item, which is a very important item, and it actually is apropos what we're going to hear later on from Working America. But we've had a number of meetings and discussions with the California Democratic Party, with the Office of Leader Pelosi, with Swing Left, and a number of folks who are focusing on swing congressional districts, especially District 10 and District 21, but 10 in particular. We're also in communication with the San Francisco Labor Council, and where we are is essentially, I think there is a tentative agreement on the part of the party and the Labor Council to work together to make sure that we as San Francisco Democrats have a presence in District 10 in particular to turn that district into a Democratic district. And so we are committed here as a party, and as chair, I'm committed to making sure that we put a program together. And that requires a number of things. Key among them is that we continue to raise funds into our federal account to be able to have the resources to do what is needed. And one thing that I will be asking at the upcoming mayoral forum is for a commitment from each one of the mayoral candidates to provide volunteers for a yet-to-be-determined date, a weekend, where we can go and do some work in District 10, which is the closest. And I know that this is a very interesting time, and there is a lot of energy, and some of it is negative within the mayor's race. And so whatever differences folks may have, one thing that we hope is that one thing they can agree on is the need to work together to turn District 10 into a Democratic district. And so maybe there could be a little bit of a detente during that one weekend when they can send their volunteers to go work District 10. So we will make that happen, and hopefully we'll get a commitment from the candidates. We'll ask them and see if we can put him on the spot. So with that, I'll turn it over to Petra to talk about finances.
Okay, there it is. All right, so the retreat was really valuable. One of the things we talked about next steps is more staffing. We need some extra money in the budget to talk about trademarking our logo and our name, things like that. So those will be part of the next steps, and that's something that we need to talk about how we're going to raise the funds to do that, do what we need. Other than that, I think the Treasury report will talk about what we raised with the breakfast, and that's all I have for this month.
Now we'll go to voter registration. Member Barack.
I would like to first, as I always do, thank Henny. I'm sorry, not you, Henny. I'm just looking at you. Susan Pfeiffer for organizing the Paramount voter registration. I was able to come out that afternoon, and we registered over 200. 200 and how many? 85. That's pretty good. I also have someone in the audience who came up to me last week who happens to be, I believe you're a patent attorney and an engineer, Ashish. And he's offered up some help. We've been able to meet twice already to develop our idea to have a text to register type of way for folks to register to vote. So we're working hard on that. There are a lot of details that are coming up that I had not thought of, so I'd like to thank Ashish for offering his help on this, and we'll have more to report on that at a later time. We haven't given up on our door-to-door knocking, and I've been working with our executive director to find out if we can find a way to get some resources to help with that project. So that's also something that we're working on. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the great work, and we appreciate that. We will now go to club chartering, and I know that's been a busy time, and it's been exciting, by the way, to see the new energy, and we're talking about, besides the importance of adding the name, the queer word to the Milk Club, also 2 new clubs. So with that, Member Gupta.
Thank you. So first, I know you heard from some of our clubs who are seeking chartering during public comment. The first is the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club, and their president is Bruce Agid. And as they talk about their unifying sort of District 3, 6, and 10 to where they foresee the majority of the growth of the city occurring in the next 20 years. And the idea is that they want to complement the existing political activism and expand the opportunity to engage underrepresented voices. And they have already had a kickoff meeting, which was well attended. And so they have submitted the required materials for chartering and are seeking our charter. So several members of their club are here if anybody has any questions for them. Member takes right by the chair.
Okay, so I don't, more clubs, that's great. I guess I just have I look at these three districts, and I know District 10 District 10 is quite huge and has a lot of severe issues that are different from other parts of the city, especially when you compare it to District 3. And while I appreciate what you're going to do, I just wonder how that's all going to mesh when I know there's going to be a lot of similarities, but I know each district has some, especially 10 has some very trying issues in terms of labor development, jobs, employment, retail, that are completely different from D3. So I'm just a little confused at how these groups really are going to mesh when I see them as having some very serious diverse issues.
Well, thank you, Member De Jesus. You know, the whole purpose and goal of increasing the engagement, the political activism, and so on, is to really complement what's already going on in the various districts, whether it's neighborhood associations, whether it's nonprofits that are already addressing issues and so on, whether it's local democratic clubs. And what we would like to do is like to complement on top of that and really focus in on the issues that are cross-cutting across the three districts. So, you know, although there's a lot of differences amongst each of the districts, not only in 3, 6, and 10, there's differences throughout San Francisco, but there are some commonalities that we'd really like to address. So for instance, if I would like to get 100 people together tomorrow night, all I have to do, and this is pretty easy, is mention the T-line service for transportation along 3rd Street. And all of a sudden, people from Potrero Hill and Dogpatch and the Bayview and Mission Bay and South Beach and so on would come to that meeting because they'd want to talk about the equity or inequity around the transit service as compared to some of the other lines in the city. The thought for us there is to find this commonality across the 3 districts, and then take that and really tie it to the whole political process. And it's so important that, yeah, we should talk about the T-line service. We should be enraged about, you know, I go out there on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and look up and it's 32 minutes until the next T-line comes. Other parts of the city that wouldn't be tolerated. And so it's really about getting our voices heard, organizing, understanding how things, tie together, work together, and then really organizing, and then really working on voting. And I think that's really the key, is getting your political voice heard, and we know that on top of all the good work that's being done, there's a lot of opportunity there. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess, all politics is local politics, and insofar as there is a District 6 Democratic Club and there's a District 3 Democratic Club that's been around for getting on to 20 years, my question is, have you consulted with those? I mean, I'm a little reticent to charter a club that is going to speak for other areas that have long established patterns of representation without knowing that that level of community outreach and dialogue has gone on. I mean, relative to the things that you said, Bruce, it seems to me like if it's about the T-line, which doesn't come into the district that I represent, although many people use it, you could have the folks from the Bayview that have transportation interests get together with folks from District 6 where that line runs through. So I want to make sure that we're not chartering a club that is presuming to speak for established Democratic clubs that have a long history. Have you consulted with them?
Well, Aaron, specifically consulting with each of the Democratic clubs, no, we haven't done that. And the reason for that is there is nothing that we're doing as this Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club that usurps any of the relationships and the great work that is already being done by those clubs. So District 3, like you mentioned, South Beach D6. The Potrero Hill Club isn't really a D10 club. It's more of a more micro-focused, I think. And there is no intent for the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club to speak on behalf of the District 3 Democratic Club. It's really more, it's not a citywide club, so it's kind of a hybrid between the two. There are a lot of citywide clubs that don't speak on behalf, of a district. And what ours is really trying to look at these issues that cut across. You mentioned the T-line, and although today the T-line doesn't go into D3, once the Central Subway is finished, the determination will be in Chinatown. So it'll eventually be in D3. And there's so many other issues like the environment, workforce development. There's so many opportunities across the Eastern neighborhoods where there's opportunities to kind of work kind of at a higher level on some of these issues that cut across the three districts. So not really getting into things that the D3 club focuses on or the D6 club focuses on. It's really kind of working on a different set of issues which are complementary and organizing and bringing folks to the political discussion that aren't there today.
I would only submit this to my colleagues, which is when we start, there are clubs that are created along supervisorial district lines, but the Eastern neighborhoods actually in the lexicon that I live in include supervisorial districts that are not just districts 3, 6, and 10. I mean, District 5 is clearly an Eastern neighborhood district. So I'm a little troubled by the geography, and I'm not exactly sure what the mission is. And insofar as we don't want to really dilute our democratic power, and we should be spending our time on congressional races, but I welcome more involvement, but I'm not exactly sure what the mission here is, but with that, I'll turn the microphone back over.
I'm going to limit this to just a couple more minutes. I know Member Shea wants to speak as well. I want to ensure that we keep the rest of the agenda going.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, we have a lot of Democratic clubs in our DCCC that we charter, and we have the City Democratic Club, we have the United Democratic Club, we have the Asia Pacific Democratic Club. We also have clubs that are different perspectives within the same community. We have the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club, we have the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club. They don't always agree on the same issues. In fact, they almost never agree on the same issues. And that is the beauty of San Francisco and its diverse clubs. So with respect to Member Peskin, who speaks about the long-established Democratic clubs in District 3, yes. In fact, that's very true. but there are many opinions in District 3. I don't think that it is a monolithic district at all. So I welcome the diversity of opinions, and I welcome your club and urge you to continue to organize San Franciscans for democratic values.
Just a couple points, and one more comment from Supervisor Fewer. I would simply note Alice and Milt did agree on the District 8 supervisor race, so that's a first. But I would simply note that I did meet with folks. I met with Bruce, and the thing that I asked, which I think they will do, is to make sure that there is no duplication of efforts, and that to the extent that they can be complementary. I do think that there's a place for new energy and the coordination that we're thinking about. And I certainly welcome that, and I think that we need to continue to have ongoing conversations with the existing clubs, and I think there's a commitment to do that. Supervisor Fewer.
I just have one question. I'm wondering, what is your plan to outreach to Treasure Island? And do you have any members that currently are residents of Treasure Island?
Yeah. Supervisor Fewer, or Member Fewer, yes, absolutely. We have, I think, one member. Right now we have, really pleased that we have 58 members. We had one launch event, which was really a soft launch, and we have 58 members. One person I know does live on Treasure Island, and that's one of the areas that's going to have the largest development going forward. I think 12 to 15,000 units of housing going on out there. So definitely want to make sure that they're engaged in the conversation because they are part of District 6.
So to put it back to Member Gupta, we have about 5 minutes left this entire 25 that we were out allotting. Member Maxwell?
Yeah, Member Maxwell, who is their liaison, which I wanted to also mention, wanted to say a few words.
I am glad to see. I think there's enough Democrats to go around, and so I think it's important that we show strength, and I'm going to be watching every movie made. But I think that there's enough Democrats to go around, and that we need to do everything we can to make sure that they are successful, because if they are, we are. And so I welcome you, and good luck, and stay on the straight and narrow.
Member Gupta, thank you.
Thank you, Member Maxwell. I agree with you. I think the concern is that we don't want to dilute our existing resources and members, and I appreciate that it appears that there are new members that are being brought into this club and brought into the foray. I think someone at public comment had said it was their first time coming to a meeting and speaking, so that's what we really look forward to, engaging more members of our community and bringing more Democrats into our party and working together. So, barring no other questions, I'd like to make a motion that we charter the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club.
Second. Okay, if we can, do we need a roll call? No? Can we take that? Well, all aye? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it passes unanimously.
Great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And so the next item in our club chartering is for the Laurel San Francisco Democratic Club. Laurel's is a Democratic club that's committed to advocating for accessible public higher education within the Democratic Party within California. They center their advocacy because they believe the system of public higher education needs it more acutely than ever. They want to organize colleges, universities, communities to support these issues and expanding and defending our institutions of public higher education. So I think, as you heard from several of their members during public comment, Eric Silver is their president. Their liaison will be Member Bevan Dufty. And does anybody have any questions for the Laurel San Francisco?
So we have a motion.
Yes, I make a motion that we chartered Laurel San Francisco.
Is there a second? Second, Member Spear. Can we, all in favor, say aye?
Aye. Any
opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously.
Congratulations. And the final item is just a name change that the Harvey Milk LGBT club added Q for queer to their name, and they're now the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club. And as per prior precedent, when a name change occurs to a club, they do need to be rechartered. So that's why they have come before our body again for rechartering under their new name too. So does anybody have any questions or concerns? Barring none, I'd like to make a motion that we recharter the Harvey Milk LGBTQ Democratic Club.
So we have a motion, we have a second by member Mahogany.
You better second that.
Is one of the co-chairs. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. So if we can do the next round of business in the next 10 minutes so that we can keep moving. Now, outreach, Member Lacroix. Thank you, Member Gupta, for all your good work.
Yes, I'll keep it short and sweet. We, as the DCCC, will be partnering with the District 11 Democratic Club to participate in Sunday Streets on March 25th. So mark that time in your calendars. We'll be reaching out to see who can show up along with myself and the members of the D11 Club to table and reach out to folks in District 11 and thanks, Excelsior. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much. Our fabulous treasurer. Maybe we can go to committees before we hear from our treasurer. So, bylaws, I know that we have an item going, I don't know if there's a need to discuss that item now or if we should just, okay, go ahead.
So, as you know, we have been working on this bylaws committee, so we brought this to you before and we went back into committee, I think twice already. There are a couple of corrections. We had changed a sentence and it didn't consistently make it through the document. So I just want to point out on PPM Article 7, Section 1.1, the very last sentence, the very last phrase of the last sentence should be consistent and should be changed to including infringement on the trademark and or that the communication has been approved by the San Francisco Democratic Party such that a reasonable voter would be confused. And that's a phrase we've used consistently throughout there, just didn't make it on that particular paragraph. So I'd ask that. And then at one point, right, 2 paragraphs down, same thing, PPM Article 7, Section 1.3, it says in the middle of the paragraph, overturned by a 2/3 vote, that should have been a majority vote, not a 2/3 vote. So I'd like to make that change. And then the very next section, 1.4, the very last sentence, second to the last sentence, including infringement on the trademark and/or that the communication has been approved by the San Francisco Democratic Party. So those are the 3 changes that need to be made. And other than that, I'm assuming everybody read it. And this is something which we have been talking about. Protecting our name, trademarking our name. We do have the language in here that there shouldn't be an infringement on the trademark, and we are in the process of hiring a trademark attorney to trademark our proprietary intellectual property. So I think we can go ahead and move this in like that, and we will continue down the path to trademark our property, our name and our property. And then the conflict of interest, we've mentioned this to you before. We have pretty much mimicked our parent, the State Democratic Club, and this is pretty much the same conflict of interest that they have. The only thing I want to say on the conflict of interest we talked about earlier, it's just a disclosure statement. You just have to disclose unless you actually have a contract pending directly in front of the committee. At that point, we would ask you not to vote. All right, so that's I think that's all the changes that I have.
Just a question, because we have a separate item that is going to be voted on. So is this just a report, and then we'll take action when the item comes up? Is that how you want to proceed? Yes. Okay, so we'll come back to, I know that there are comments, changes that people may want, so we'll do that when the item comes. So in terms of reporting, anything else to report? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to communications. Member Gawat.
Thank you, Chair Campos. Just a few updates. One, we have been live streaming all of our events. We are live streaming tonight's meeting. I also want to acknowledge Paul Stell, who's a member of the Harvey Milk Club, who has been recording our meetings as well. Thank you, Paul, for doing that. Who's volunteering his time. We launched our new spring fashion line that Chair Campos mentioned earlier, our beautiful bright blue t-shirts, which is great for making us more visible in the community, which is something we're working hard on as a committee. We're looking at what other collateral needs we may want to pursue in the next few months to get the word out about what we are doing, our endorsements, etc. We right now really want to promote the mayoral debate on March 8th, and so my ask to all of the committee members is to help us promote that event. We want a really good attendance. We have a large room at the LGBT Center. We want it to be filled. So if you can help us share out the meeting details, the event details, we have a Facebook event. If you can tweet it, share it on social media, in email form, just help us get the word out. That would be much appreciated. And just as an FYI, our next Communications Committee meeting will be on Monday, March 12th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Muddy Waters on 16th and Valencia.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to endorsements. And we have here Member Lowe, who one of our newest moms, who looks amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I just wanted to remind folks that we are having our endorsement interviews on Saturday, March 17th at the Women's Building, 3543 18th Street. And this is open to the public, so for all you chartered clubs, please do come through. We're going to start those at 10 a.m. on March 17th. We've also been working really hard on the questionnaires, which I believe are now on the website for most of the races. And one of the things that I wanted to put forward for this committee to consider tonight is, given that at the convention we did have some historic outcomes where we haven't made some endorsements on a number of statewide offices. So there is a consideration on the table of whether or not this committee would like to then open it up for consideration to do endorsements on a local level, in which case we do have a statewide questionnaire prepared that we can send out tonight, or not tonight, sorry, this week, and possibly even invite folks to come to that endorsement interview if that's what this committee would like to do. So I would like to put that forward for all of you. I think that's pretty much it from our committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great work. And now we'll hear from our treasurer.
Okay, so you have the report on the right-hand side of your folder. As you can see, federal committee cash on hand, $6,495.31. The PEX card, we have a balance of $319.74. Out of the federal account, we have payables to Stearns Consulting, which is the total amount of all of our payables, which is $15,067.98. State committee cash on hand, which is what we can use for all of our local elections, is $75,051.18. And at the state level, the payables are to our law firm Olson Hagel and Fishburne, and that's $94.50. And that's current as of the 28th. And you can see if you want to see what happened at the end of the month, the second page has all that information.
Any questions for our treasurer? Yes, Member Shea.
Member Alexander, we usually have a P&L that comes along with this, and I don't see it. Is there one missing in my packet, or do we not?
No, you're right. We do usually have that. We can
Maybe
provide it for next month. We'll have both months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. We can do that. Next, we will go to our regional director, Region 6 director, who is in the back, Penny Kelly. Anything to report? And I know that you were quite busy at the convention, and we thank you for all your great work.
Thank you very much. I thought that those beautiful turquoise, I will call them, t-shirts really set the tone in Region 6 where we sat. So I wanted to say, and if you can order one in my size, I need a larger size than you guys had, but I really wanted to say that I really enjoyed this convention. It was a little raggedy because it was the first time this team had put together one, but there were people that were excited about being Democrats, and I really wanted to thank many people who stayed through Sunday, which is an important thing to do, but I want you to know that we are looking forward to another e-board, and it is going to be in Oakland at the Marriott, right next to the convention center, right downtown, so it won't have to be, we won't have to go as far. And I will be getting you information on that in a little while. So that's about it, and I wanted to thank everybody. I do have one, but it's in July. So, no, it's not. Of what? Of July. It's right out, it's 13th, 14th, and 15th of July. I wanted to ask you something. Many of you have been to conventions before. Did it seem more accessible than other conventions? I want you to know that it was. We did have a few problems with a gauntlet to run through for voting. That is not going to ever happen again because the Disabilities Caucus is going to change that. I just want to tell you that. But we are trying to make it more accessible, and the reason I point that out to you is because you are really one of the first Democratic County Central Committees that has in your Constitution a portion of the Constitution that talks about making meetings accessible for all Democrats. And I am discussing that with the chair of the party and showing him how you did it and getting him to really work with me and with the Disabilities Caucus, and hopefully he'll talk to you about making it more accessible, language accessible also. So we have both physical accessibility, we have decent sound now, and hopefully we have language accessibility offered. So we are going to try and do that with the Democratic Party, but you have led the way, so I really want to thank you today.
Thank you. And before we move on to the next item, I do want to note on the endorsements in those races, statewide races, where the party did not take a position, we will proceed to include the statewide questionnaire, and we will proceed to at least hold interviews when we have our endorsement process. The party can decide to endorse or not endorse when the vote actually happens, but I know that Member Lowe will move that process forward, and so that will be included in the deliberations that we engage in the next month. So with that, if we can now, unless there's an objection, I'd like to, Adam. I'm sorry, my apologies. Our Executive Director, fine.
I'll be brief due to time constraints. I wanted to say a major big thank you for helping me with a lot of convention schematics, and that'd be our member growth. She was phenomenal in terms of locating proxies for people and logistics, housing, everything you could possibly think of. Member growth was fantastic, and I wanted her to get acknowledgement for that. And then my second quick point I wanted to say is clubs have been saying in their 460 forms, which can be found on our website as per our bylaws. The Democratic chartered clubs that have sent them in, I wanted to notice: Bernal Heights, FDR Dems, Harding Milk Democratic Club, New Avenue, San Francisco Young Democrats, South Beach District 6 Dems, Latino Young Democrats, United Dems is the final one. So we still have some reaching out to many Democratic clubs and liaisons. Please take the lead if you are supposed to touch base with your Democratic club just to make sure that we get that paperwork.
Great. Thank you very much. Now we will move on to item 12. I don't know if we're ready for item 12. We are? Okay. Great. So unless there's any objection, item 12 is a resolution in support of the Redstone Labor Temple. And to present on it is our treasurer, Member Alexander.
So thank you, colleagues. So the Red Temple building, as you heard earlier, is a historic building in San Francisco. It was built in 1914 by the Labor Council at the time. It was one of the sites of the organizing for the historic 1934 strike, and it continues to be a hub for some of the most important groups. I would say in San Francisco, in terms that are very low-income nonprofit organizations that, if they are displaced, are not going to find anywhere else to pay. Honestly, they're not going to be able to afford market rate. They're not even going to afford the reduced rate that some nonprofits are able to pay. These are groups like Ella for Trans Latinas, groups like the Living Wage Coalition, and a series of other groups. I know I'm forgetting a ton, but anyway, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence also have their offices there. These are groups that are really core to the culture of San Francisco, and we do not have places where these small nonprofits that play such an important role in our communities can actually gain space. In addition to this being a very historic and important building, so I hope that you all support the resolution.
Great, thank you. Any questions, Member Peskin?
Thank you. I just want to say that as a member of the Board of Supervisors, I often do not vote on matters that could come to the board as an adjudicatory matter, where we serve as a quasi-judicial body. This particular matter I voted on in the past. It was landmark number 238, which I voted on in December of 2003 to designate as a landmark. I don't see any way that it can actually come before the board as an adjudicatory matter, so I will be voting for this tonight, and proudly so.
Do you remember the exact day, though?
December 16th.
Okay, thank you. Member Davis.
I certainly will be supporting it, and I'd ask that you add my name as a sponsor.
Great. Can we have a motion on this? So motion by Member Maxwell, second by Member Lowe. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you, and now you can go home with the baby. We'll now go on to item number 6, which is a presentation from Donnie Fowler, who's a co-founder of the Democracy Labs, and I'll turn it over to Member Maxwell, who's going to introduce this item, and we'll have 10 minutes of the presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I met Donnie Fowler at a Resistance Indivisible meeting. There was about 100 people there, and they were from different resistance groups. And Donnie was speaking, and what caught my attention is when he said to them, I know you may not want to hear this, but the Democratic Party is the party that you're going to have to think about. And I said, okay, then we need to talk. And I asked him to come. Donnie has been involved for a very, very long time. He was involved in 8 presidential campaigns. In 2016, he worked with Donna Brazile at the National Democratic DNC. And so I think he has a perspective that we need to hear. And he said, well, what do you want me to talk about? And I said, you know what we need to know. And you know what you may want to tell us. So Donnie, please come forward and tell us what you think we need to hear.
Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee.
Well, it's quite a task to say that I have something to tell you all that you don't already know. So I do not. Maybe we forgot. I don't intend to be that presumptuous. Thank you, Sophie, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I do want to talk about, well, let me say this. I went to the Potrero Mayor's Debate 2 weeks ago, a week ago, with my students at the Leo McCarthy Center at the University of San Francisco. And they convinced me to go. And it reminded me how absolutely blessed we are to live in this city. We get to fight over who wants to solve the housing crisis more, who wants to fix transit and transportation more, who wants to fix the homeless problem more, who wants to do more for equity and opportunity. I grew up in South Carolina. We don't have debates like that in South Carolina. But the 17 years I've lived here, I've gotten to understand the blessings. But the 30 years I've been around the country working on 8 presidential campaigns, that's part of the perspective I want to bring real quick. I had to make I had a really tough task in 2016 at the Democratic National Convention. I was the floor whip for the Democratic Party. And you know, it was 60% Hillary delegates and 40% Bernie delegates. And I had to talk to the Clinton campaign and ask them to make a choice. Some of the Clinton people were very angry. I'm talking about the senior staff in Brooklyn on their national campaign. Were very angry at the Bernie people, at Bernie himself, for making it so hard for her. Some of the Clinton people weren't that angry, but they weren't exactly sure what to do with the 40% of the delegates that were Bernie delegates. And I said, you know, you have a choice. And the choice is you can either treat your fellow Democrats and progressives as the opposition and be antagonistic and do what some of them wanted, which was to throw the Bernie people out if they protested. Or, I said, this is my Northern California learnings, I said, or we can consider ourselves a big family, and we're at a family reunion for 4 days in Philadelphia. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to get along with your crazy Uncle Ted, but you just sit in the room with each other and realize that we have more in common, Bernie and Clinton, than we have against us. Now, if you were at the convention, it felt like a storm, especially in the California delegation. But if you saw it on television, and ultimately these conventions are infomercials, if you saw it on television, it looked kind of smooth. It was like the duck on top of the water, right? He's smooth, but he's pedaling like crazy underneath. That's what was happening. But that convention and the way that the Clinton campaign chose to deal with the Bernie delegates was a choice. A choice. So here are 5 choices that we are dealing with right now and for the next couple of years. First, how we got to now. How the Democratic Party has fewer offices than it's had since the 1920s nationally. How we got to where we are was a series of choices that the Democratic Party made, not just in 2016 with Hillary, but over the last decade. It was also the result of choices that the conservatives made on how they were going to suppress votes, how they were going to redistrict, how they were going to do the things, the messages they chose. The choices we made in the last decade were to abandon the Democratic Party, starting with the White House. After that historic election in 2008, the White House made a choice to take the power and energy and people of Obama's first election and give that to Organizing for America. That was a rational decision because a lot of people aren't partisan, but what they did was they abandoned the institution of the Democratic Party. Why does that matter? It matters because when the average American voter goes into the voting booth to vote, it doesn't say Hillary Clinton Sierra Club. It doesn't say Hillary Clinton Indivisible. It says Hillary Clinton Democrat. Kamala Harris, Democrat. Nancy Pelosi, Democrat. And if Democrat doesn't mean something, then we have put ourselves at a serious disadvantage. It's one of the reasons that we've lost is because Democrat for 10 years was ignored. That was a choice. Second choice. There's a big debate now in the Democratic Party over whether we talk about policy or message or narrative or story or culture or values. The most important choice we have to make when we go out of San Francisco to these congressional districts is a choice to tell our personal story and why we're there and to make an emotional connection. Voters simply don't operate on the nuance of policy. If they don't trust you, if they don't trust your value set, if they don't trust your story, they don't know you, it doesn't matter what your policy is. We love to fight over policy here in San Francisco because we have the luxury that we don't have any Republicans. The rest of the country doesn't have that luxury. Third choice. Do we have to be anti-Trump or pro-Democrat? Do we going to go out there and tear down Donald Trump and remind Americans how awful he is? Or are we going to say, here's what the Democratic Party stands for? I'm telling you, that's not a choice. Don't make the choice. We have to do both. Bill Clinton had this great argument about how you run for office. You don't run for office on the past, and you don't run for office only in negative. You run for office by telling voters what the future is going to be. And yes, we want the future to be without Trump, but it's not going to be without the right wing. It's not going to be without the alt-right. So we have to tell them what future we want to lead. So it's not a choice, anti-Trump or pro-Democrat. We have to be both. Fourth choice. I think we only have to get greater turnout among Democrats. If we just increase the black vote, if we just increase young people's vote, if we just focus on the base, we're going to win elections. Look what happened in Alabama in that Senate race. No, you're absolutely wrong. We have to talk to those white voters that voted twice for the black man for president and then moved over to vote for Donald Trump. Now, wait a minute. They're racist. No, they're not, because they were white people that voted for black president twice, and then they voted for Trump. But that's who we have to talk to, because those white non-college voters are what's going to win the election. That's not a choice either. You have to do both. There's a little bit of math in this. A Democratic voter who lives in rural America and a very loyal Democratic voter that lives in San Francisco. Who counts more when they're counting the ballots? It's exactly the same. They're both worth one vote. The white non-college voter who voted twice for Obama and once for Trump, or the black woman in Alabama or Michigan, who we know is the most loyal Democrat in our party. Who counts more when they count the ballots? Neither one. We got to quit making these choices because they aren't choices. They're things we like to fight about. Bernie or Hillary, base voter, swing vote, culture, values, message, policy. We got to do it all. We're Democrats. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think. I've seen it. Fifth choice, what's next? What comes after 2018? What comes after 2018? The fifth choice is, okay, whether we win or lose 2018, whether Nancy Pelosi's the speaker again, whether Chuck Schumer's a majority leader or not, there are three things that scare me to death, and I've seen every single one of these, whether it was growing up in South Carolina or the 2016 election. There are three things that matter more than whether Nancy Pelosi's speaker. Redistricting. One reason she hasn't been speaker is because of the way the Republicans wrote the rules and the way they then drew the districts. Second, voter suppression. The national Republicans and the national conservatives don't come to voter suppression accidentally. This is a big problem because those of us that live locally, which we all do, often say, well, they've got cop cars out at the black polling precincts. They've got immigration officers at the Latino precincts. That they do that everywhere in the country. I ran in Michigan in 2004 for John Kerry. We had a recording of national Republican operatives that came into the white suburbs and said to the little old ladies and the frat boys, you go into the black precincts and you're trying to protect the vote. So third, the 2020 census, which impacts redistricting. Those three choices, we can't just say, let's focus only on 2018. If we forget that those three things, what's next? Last comment, last thought. We have a choice about what the Democratic Party needs to be. I talked to a U.S. Senator after the last election, and that U.S. Senator said, I went to a college campus, and there was a Black Lives Matter meeting, and there was a campus Democratic Party meeting. And I had to make a choice. I only had time to go to one meeting. He said there were 10 earnest, well-meaning Democrats at the college Democrats meeting, but there were 150 people at the Black Lives Matter meeting. Where do you think I went, said the U.S. Senator. He went to the larger meeting. The Democratic Party has not evolved in the way that we deal with voters, in the way that voters want to hear from us. And so our meetings, this is an example, our meetings are small and sparse. We cannot win again if 15 people come to a county party meeting when there were 150 people at the indivisible meeting. That's not to chastise you. That's to say, in closing, that's to say the Democratic Party needs to get with it. We need to understand digital, social media, and all those new tools. We also need to become a movement, not just an institution. So we all have choices. We all have choices. And as Deng Xiaoping said, I don't care if the cat is black or white. I just care that the cat catches mice. Remove the cat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Member Master, for bringing that forward, and we appreciate the words of wisdom. We'll now go on to item number 7, which is a presentation from Laura Jo Fu, volunteer with Working America, and I'll turn it over to Member De Jesus.
So Laura has some handouts for us, which are really important. One of the things we have is the Working America has been working diligently and tirelessly across the nation, and they're also focusing here in California on flipping red to blue, and that's a little bit different than registering Democrats and getting the vote out for Democrats. And so I think Laura's going to talk about how we can work together and how we can really accomplish what we need to accomplish.
Thank you, Laura, for being here. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you for the invitation.
Hello? Okay. So I was really heartened to hear that the San Francisco Democrats are committed to helping us flip CD10. And I understand some of you have been out there in Modesto in CD10. So I'm here to ask that San Francisco Democrats canvass with us, Working America also. So why Working America, and what is Working America? Working America is the community affiliate of the AFL-CIO. We've been canvassing and engaged in electoral politics since 2003 for 15 years. We've been in the battleground states of Ohio, Florida, Michigan, Missouri, Colorado, New Mexico. And we have 3 million members across the country. 70% of them consider themselves moderate or conservative. And out of 400 elections that Working America has been involved in, we have a win rate of 70%. That's up until 2016 when, with the Trump election, we dropped to 62%, but that's pretty damn good out of 400 elections. And so we know how to talk to swing voters. Working America is nonpartisan. We knock on the doors of Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and Trump voters. So I've been out in Modesto, I've talked to Trump voters. Because we're nonpartisan, we wait until the primaries are over, and then we pivot to candidate persuasion. We do, since June we've been canvassing, and what we do is what we call deep canvassing, and that's listening. Listening to the concerns of voters at the door, doing education, and building a trusting relationship so that when we go back to do candidate persuasion, they are more likely to vote the way that we recommend. Working America being part of the labor movement, our key issues are good jobs, affordable health care, education, secured retirement, and corporate accountability. And those are the questions that we ask voters at the door. What are your main concerns? Of this list of 5, what keeps you up at night? And we listen. We have a conversation. And if it's health care, we say, did you know that your Congressman Denham voted to repeal Obamacare? Did you know that he voted for tax cuts for the rich? That Medicare and Medicaid will be under attack? So why would Democrats want to knock on swing voter doors? It's because we cannot flip CD10 and CD21 without the swing voters. CD10 Democrats outnumber Republicans, but when you combine Republicans and independents, they outnumber Democrats. So CD10 is only 43% Democrat. CD21, the same thing. Democrats outnumber Republicans, but when you combine Republicans and independents, they outnumber the Democrats. So Democrats are only 48% of CD10. CD21. CD21 is 75% Latino, but only 89% are eligible to vote, and 80% are low propensity voters. So Emilio Huerta ran against David Valadao, the Republican incumbent, and he lost. And he lost because he did not have the white working class vote. And so swing voters in the white working class is crucial to flipping CD10 and CD21. And we probably might be the only group in the Central Valley targeting swing voters. In June, we opened our Modesto office. We have 9 paid staff now. They're all bilingual, they all canvass, along with 200 volunteers, mostly coming from the Bay Area. We've knocked on 58,000 doors. We've spoken to 34,000 voters. And before November, we have to knock on at least 150,000 doors. So we need volunteers. To make that impact, we need more volunteers. Of the 58,000 doors that we've knocked on, 90% are in CD10. And so we need volunteers in CD21 also. And I understand CD21, the closest town is 3 hours away. So come to CD10 and canvass with the labor movement, canvass with Working America. So I'd like to just open it up for questions now, if anyone has any questions.
Member De Jesus.
Can you touch upon some of the things that you found out? I mean, that you talked about, I think, health and jobs and things like that. But I mean, were there any other statistics that were really kind of eye-opening or to you?
What was interesting, we did a national survey of African American voters, Latino voters, white voters, and we surveyed 300 Latino voters in Modesto in CD10, asking them what their key issues are. And what was very interesting was education was number 1, healthcare was number 2, and good jobs was number 3. And people said, with a good education, my kids can get a good job, they can afford health care, and so that is key. And what unites working people of all colors are those issues, are those economic issues, the good jobs, affordable health care, secure retirement.
And how would our group like volunteer? Would you volunteer directly with you and bus you drive down there? How's that work?
Well, I was just talking to Connie Ford. She says the San Francisco Labor Council will be taking buses down, and if you all can join that bus, that would be great.
We are actually working with Tim Paulson on that, so yeah, people won't have to drive. I think we'll be coordinating with them.
Great. Though driving is fine too, because if a busload of 50 people means we don't have enough car to get you out to the neighborhoods. So some of you need to drive.
Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Look forward to working with you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, Connie Ford. Thank you, Labor Council. And now we'll go on to item number 8. And we are here, we're going to hear from Pedro Hernandez. Pedro is with Fair Vote California, just to give us a presentation about ranked choice voting. And this is something that Fair Vote California has been doing throughout the city, has gone to different clubs, and we thought it would be important as we're actually going through the endorsement process ourselves. That includes ranked choice voting for some local races. That would be helpful for us to hear from Pedro. So Pedro, thank you very much for being here. You have 10 to 15 minutes.
Thank you so much. My name is Pedro Hernandez. I'm the Deputy Director of Fair Vote California, 10-year-long resident of San Francisco. And I actually fell into this work because so I went to law school down the street, mostly worked on education, transit and housing equity issues when I was a fellow in legal assistant and public advocates. But after law school, I ended up in private practice with a lawyer going around the state challenging at-large voting systems that diluted minority voting power and submerged the minority voting strength. So, I spent a lot of time in Orange County turning these at-large elections into district elections. But after that, kind of fell into this work because I see ranked choice voting as one of those electoral reforms that could really help increase minority voice, as well as making sure the minorities are able to have their candidate have an equal opportunity of getting elected. So I'm the Deputy Director of Fair Vote California. We've been around since August 2016. We're part of Fair Vote National, a group that focuses on electoral reform issues like the national popular vote, universal registration, lowering the voting age, and ranked choice voting. So I'm here to talk about ranked choice voting in San Francisco. It's been used here since 2004 to elect many of its officers. This election in June will be only the second time ranked choice voting is used to elect the mayor during an open election. What is ranked choice voting? I've given you all a handout. Essentially, it gives voters the power to rank their candidates in order of preference. You don't have to worry about wasting your vote or splitting the votes. There's no primary or runoff election, which would mean two separate runoffs and the possibility of lower turnout. It fosters greater voter participation. It used to be the case that only 3 in 5 voters in San Francisco returned to the December runoff. In the 24 ranked choice voting elections that needed multiple counts in San Francisco, what we see is that close to 87% of voters had their vote counted towards that final decisive round. That is a lot more representative of the electorate, so we found this to be more efficient than runoffs. So what we understand about ranked choice voting in the Bay Area is that generally voters are ranking. In the 2011 race for mayor in San Francisco, 84.1% of voters ranked 2 to 3 candidates. And in the 24 races that needed multiple counts of runoffs in San Francisco in the ranked choice voting election, on average we see about 75.4% of ballots have 2 to 3 rankings. We have evidence to suggest that under ranked choice voting, face-to-face and on-the-ground campaigning matters more than money in politics. For example, in the 2016 District 1 race, the winning candidate was outspent by nearly double by independent expenditures, and that candidate was able to secure a victory with the help of ranked choice voting. In the 2016 Berkeley mayor race, Jesse Aragon became the first Latino mayor of Berkeley despite being outspent by $145,000 in independent expenditures. Rosie Torres in Oakland was outspent by IE's $190,000. She conducted an RCV strategy with another candidate. She actually came second in the first count and won in the instant runoff. So I'm here to talk to you about how ranked choice voting works. Voters get a ballot, so on the handout that I gave you, there's a picture of what the ballot actually looks like in San Francisco. There are 3 columns. You get to rank your first choice, a second choice, and a third choice. Your first choice can be someone you love, your second could be someone you like, and your third could be someone you could live with, is what I like to say. The Department of Election then counts everyone's first choice votes. If a candidate receives 50% plus 1, a majority, that candidate wins and the election's over. However, if no candidate has 50% plus 1, the candidate with the least amount of first choice votes is eliminated and defeated, and then those votes go to those voters' second choices, and then you count again. Did someone receive 50% plus 1? If not, you repeat this process until a majority winner is reached. Some key points to remember is that everyone has 1 vote. Ranking your favorite candidate more than once doesn't help them because your vote will only count for that candidate. Indicating only 1 choice or bullet voting doesn't help your favorite candidate because a second choice only counts if your first choice is eliminated. Ranking a second or third choice doesn't hurt your first choice candidate, is what I'm trying to say. If there are 3 acceptable candidates, it's up to you, it's up to your advantage as a voter to use the rankings available to you. It doesn't hurt your favorite candidate to rank a second or third. So this election cycle, Fair Vote is conducting a lot of voter education work. This month we presented to various groups, probably about 200 or so people so far. We also conducted a ranked choice voting poll during Beer Week at the Academy of Sciences. It was really fun. Voters got to come, attendees got to come and rank their beer in order of preference. I had a really great time. We're looking for volunteers to help us do more activities, possibly another one at the Academy of Sciences where attendees can rank their favorite animal, their favorite planet. We really want to make sure that voters are cultured in the sense of ranking and making sure that as the election comes up, we're doing everything we can to make sure that voters understand that, we're having an election, one, because a lot of people aren't even aware, and then two, to make sure that they understand that, they have the opportunity to actually rank their choices. And so if your members and your groups would like to learn more, to help us out, to either volunteer as spokespersons to do these kinds of explanations about ranked choice voting, I'll pass around a sign-up form. And a couple other things that I want to bring up is that we'll be having these trainings for folks, and I'm getting some volunteers, some student volunteers that actually help us do these things. We'll be at Sunday Streets doing voter education as well. And we're actually going to be holding a ranked choice voting training for candidates who are going to be running in the November race in the Bay Area. So we have 4 cities in the Bay Area that use ranked choice voting: Oakland, Berkeley, San Leandro, and San Francisco. San Francisco was the first. And so that's going to be on March 31st. I'll send around an email. Please reach out to me if you have any other questions. I can take some questions, but please reach out to me as well if you would like a presentation on ranked choice voting to your group.
Colleagues, we wanted to do this before our endorsement vote next month. So any questions for Pedro? Thank you, Pedro. That's very useful. I have a question in terms of in your study of the process here in San Francisco, have you seen any communities or groups where perhaps ranking is not happening as often as in others? Any kind of education that you think would be helpful to voters with the upcoming mayor's race?
Great, yes. So I'll bring up a couple points. There's a misconception out there that certain groups of voters aren't ranking, when in fact, for example, the Asian American community, some of their precincts are the ones that rank the most in San Francisco, but also, studying the elections, we see that maybe there might be some trends among voter errors or skipped rankings, but those trends happen across precincts as well, no different. However, I do think that because voters only get to vote in their district every 4 years at the ranked ballot, and if it's not competitive, there's no real reason to rank candidates, then it's important to do voter education. What we've generally seen is that voters will rank when it matters, versus if it's an uncompetitive race, you'll see less rankings. So yes, there's an opportunity, I think, to do continuing education work. The city does save money by eliminating the need of a runoff, and it would be great to see some of those cost savings be used for voter education.
And I have a question, and I'll turn it to Peter. We have an opportunity to rank 1, 2, 3. Is there any guidance in terms of the importance of ranking all 3, or only 2, or 1, or any thoughts?
Yeah, so your first choice is the most important choice, because your first choice will stick with your candidate so long as your candidate is still in the running. Your second choice will only come into play if your first choice is eliminated. So it's up to the benefit of voters to rank their candidates. As a question for endorsing groups, it really matters. Is there 1 or 2 or 3 candidates among them that you would prefer in a certain order? And if you didn't, that third candidate should be, good enough to be above your first choice. So those are the calculations that groups ought to make. Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, Pedro, for being here, and I just want to commend you and thank you for the work you're doing to educate voters in San Francisco and the Bay Area on ranked choice. I think it's really important for folks to understand how voting works in San Francisco and the other cities. My question is around when candidates kind of team up together within a ranked choice setting. Have you done any kind of research on the efficacy of that when candidates have not kind of teamed up with a ranked choice strategy, if that has hindered candidates or helped candidates?
Yeah, so in some of the examples, so for example, in the Rosie Torres race in Oakland, she aligned herself with Michael Hutchinson, and about 80% of the votes from Michael Hutchinson were transferred to Rosie Torres. You saw some of those dynamics play out in Berkeley as well in the 2016 race with Cheryl Davila being elected. And you saw that with Jean Quan and Rebecca Kaplan. She actually gets 75% of Rebecca Kaplan's votes when she was eliminated, and they had done coalition building to make sure that their vote wasn't split. So it's really up to the candidates as well to make sure that they're sending that message out to voters.
Do you have any are there any examples where a local party has ranked, endorsements, and where you have seen that make a difference?
Yeah, so for example, in Minneapolis, you saw Our Revolution endorse 2 candidates in no order, and one of their candidates was elected just last year. But I think expressing to your group that you have a preference or no preference, but making sure that you make your message explicit is important.
Okay, last question.
So on your cheat sheet here, the very last one, a few mistakes by voters, the last prong, on average, overvotes and undervotes combined made up by 13.5% of the votes in the first round of runoff. Under this voting, undervotes and whatever. I just want you to explain that a little bit to me. Why is that a mistake? You say that they seem to understand the ranked choice voting.
Most voters do understand ranked choice voting. When the instructions say rank your candidates in order of preference, and they do that. We see less errors, meaning like overvotes, or when a voter will cast 2 votes in one column. But if you look at the 2014 top 2 race in San Francisco, you actually see about like 13-14% of voters actually make a mistake. So ranked choice voting hasn't really, compared to other election systems, is no different in terms of mistakes. But what you have seen is a decline overall generally. And we're going to be coming out with a more comprehensive report probably in the next couple of weeks about the ranked choice voting outcomes and experiences that have happened, really dissecting these numbers. So I can send that to you as well.
Thank you, Pedro. And what I would say is if we can let our clubs know that they'd like to get a presentation from Fairvote, California, that Pedro's available to do that, and we appreciate your efforts. It's very important, very useful.
Great, thank you so much for having me.
Very much.
Great.
Great, thank you. Now we're going to go on to item number 9, and I'll turn it over to Member De Jesus, who's been working on this.
Okay, so we're going back to the bylaws. I gave you the little amendments we have, and we have talked about this before. This is like the 3rd or 4th time that it's here. I hope all of you have read it. Basically, what it does is, I already told you what it does. Basically, hopefully you read it. I do want to point out though that, as I said before, the conflict of interest measure basically is just. If you have a conflict, it's a disclosure. And we have a disclosure statement attached, which mirrors our parent organization. And again, the only time that you wouldn't be able to vote is if you have a direct contract pending. And that's one of the things our attorneys have told us is that we can't preclude people from voting.
So, Member De Jesus, so we have the document, and is there an amendment to their amendments?
Yes, I read them in earlier.
Could you read them again? So if you can just make a motion, we have a motion to approve.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve. I think we're taking these 2 together, these 2 items together. Is that right? Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the bylaw amendments regarding use of San Francisco Democratic Party name, Article 1, Section 1, Article 9, Section 1, and conflict of interest disclosure, Article 4, Section 9, as well as I will move that we update the policy and procedural manual regarding the use of San Francisco Democratic Party name, Article 7, Sections 1.1 to 1.3, and conflict of interest disclosure, new Article 14. With the corrections on policy and procedure manual, Article 7, Section 1.1, the last sentence should read, I know where it stops. The section 1.1, it's on page 15 of your handout, use of the name, section 1.1, and it's in the middle of the paragraph. It's strictly prohibited for any unendorsed candidate and or ballot initiative, including any third-party independent expenditure or campaign, to use or incorporate the name of the San Francisco Democratic, the DCCC, and or logo for any purpose, and this is where the change is, including infringement on the trademark and/or that the communication has been approved by the San Francisco Democratic Party such that a reasonable voter would be confused. That phrase should be there. And then 2 paragraphs down on the same page, 1.3, it says, it can be appealed to the members and overturned by a 2/3 vote. That should be a majority vote. And then if the next section, 1.4, third sentence from the first paragraph, 4th sentence down, including infringement on the trademark, and we have to add and/or that the communication has been approved.
So we have a motion. Can we have a second so we can have a debate? Second by Lacroix. Member Pesser.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Bylaws and Policies and Procedures Committee and its members, and particularly the head of that committee, Member De Jesus. I was listening to Mr. Fowler, and we do have choices, and we have made choices. And I would like to submit to you, colleagues, that one of the choices that we have made that has not benefited the Democratic Party is our involvement with Wall Street, a sense that voters have that we could have done better. I think we can do better relative to these bylaws and policies and procedures in a couple of ways, particularly as it relates to conflicts of interest. If we want people to trust us, we must look as clean as we can be. And this has been an issue that I have brought up again and again over many years. And I actually think this really goes to the policies and procedures. But in the same way that I cannot vote at the Board of Supervisors to give myself a pay raise, I think that we should really finally drill down on our conflict of interest policies. I think that if I am running for office, I should not be able to vote for myself, to endorse myself in this body. I think that the words in here and the definitions in here, I'm talking about the new Section 14 in the Policies and Procedures, are excellent, but they're only a disclosure standard. Let us not make them a disclosure standard. Let's make them a recusal standard. If you have a material financial interest, you should not be able to vote in that manner. If I am running for supervisors, which pays $117,000 a year, I should recuse myself, not comment on, not influence other members of this body, and walk out of the room. We should have that standard. I actually think that the words in number 14, this is Article 14, sections 1.0 to 1.7 are fine, but it shouldn't be a disclosure standard. It should be a recusal standard. And it could be done very, very simply. In the header, it should not say conflict of interest disclosure. It should say conflict of interest. Scratch the word disclosure. In 1.1, it should say, instead of a member of this committee must disclose to other members, it should say a member of this committee must recuse him or herself if that said member, the spouse of that member, the domestic partner of the member, or a person in the member's household has a material financial interest in advocating for or against a candidate or initiative. The rest of that section is fine. 1.4 should be stricken because that says that disclosure should be in writing. And the remaining 3 sections should be renumbered to 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. I also think that relative to trademark infringement, that the process, albeit well-meaning, is unwieldy and really unenforceable. If somebody has infringed on our trademark, the process, and I say this respectfully to the committee that drafted it, is going to take weeks, and elections can happen in weeks. So if somebody is stealing the Democratic Party's name and logo, and we have to have an executive committee meeting and then a full meeting of the DCCC, I think that it's the obligation of our elected chair, who's elected by a majority. So I would say in that provision, and that is Article 7, Section 1.4, that it should say, if the chair or the executive committee, so insert chair or the, determine that any candidate and or ballot initiative, including any third-party independent expenditure, this is the infringement part. A, here's what I would strike almost all of A and all of B. The chair of the SFDCCC shall strike the rest of A and then pick up in B. Consult with legal counsel in order to assess a violation. Strike the rest of that sentence. And then keep the last sentence. After receiving advice from counsel, insert the chair shall strike executive committee. Take any and all reasonable and necessary steps to preserve the integrity of the DCCC's name and or logo in the endorsement process. So those are the 2 changes I would propose to the policies and procedures. Relative to the bylaws, I actually think that the language that currently exists in the conflict of interest section, and that's Article 4, Section 9, is absolutely adequate insofar as it refers to the policies and procedures. And that current section reads, Section 9, members determined to have a clear and direct economic self-interest in a matter before the DCCC shall neither comment on nor vote on said matter. Further definitions of conflicts of interest may be included in the policies and procedures manual. The chairperson or acting chair shall make determinations of whether a member has a conflict of interest. The chair's ruling may be overturned by no less than the majority of those members present and voting. I would just keep that language that is in our bylaws, has been there for years, clarify them in the policies and procedures. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we want to bring people back to the Democratic Party, we have choices to make. Thank you.
So, Member De Jesus.
So, you should come to the committee. but I do have to say, we have talked about this before. It's not the first time. And our conflict of interest rule was seriously lacking. We had a rule, and then it said the procedure is set out in policy and procedures, and it was absolutely silent. So what we did is we talked to our attorneys, and our attorneys informed us that this is an elected body. It's not a governmental agency. It doesn't have the same conflict of interest and rules of a governmental agency, and we may not be able to tell an elected official that they can't vote. But our attorneys told us that our parents, our Democratic State Party, has developed a conflict of interest rule, has developed also a form that should be filled out. And that form, that rule is based on disclosure before you vote. And so I thought we had talked about this before, that we would adopt, it was good for our parent, it's good enough for us, and the disclosure statement, we waited on that, and we tweaked it so it fit our smaller party because our parent has a little more language, but so that's where we are. Now I see how we can probably, the procedure can be whittled down in terms of if there is a violation. It's something we could go back to committee on and discuss, but I have to say, I just have to say we're following our parents, and I'm really not sure if it's legal that we can just tell someone they can't vote.
Member Shea.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Member De Jesus for ushering in this process. So there were, I think, no less than 5 bylaw committee meetings. Most of them were down at 24th and Valencia, which I enjoyed very much. And they were very, very detailed, deep dive discussions, a little deeper than this even, for hours about this issue, because as you know, there was a lot of controversy over these specific topics and about what is correct, what is appropriate, and what is fair on this body. Our counsel, our attorney, we spent a lot of time speaking with them. And not to relitigate the whole debate that went on many, many months ago about me and my ability to vote on this elective body. But Member Peskin's allegation that someone like me should be recused from voting was not appropriate, according to our attorney. According to our attorney, somebody like me or Member Peskin can and should vote for themselves on a body like this. The reason being is that we are not governed by the FPPC Governmental Reform Act, because we are not agents, we are not elected officials who manage taxpayer money. We're a deliberative body, elected in a quasi-fashion, managed and overseen by the state of California to manage politics. Register voters, educate voters, get out the vote, make endorsements, think about all the different things we do. If Member Peskin's standard were enacted for the DCCC, let's just take it to the CDP of the last convention. If you were a member of Dianne Feinstein, if you were an employee of Dianne Feinstein, or a staffer, I should say, and you were also a elected member of this body and a delegate by right, then you would be recused from voting for the person you work for, even though, you know, this is obviously the person that you believe in for the election.
It doesn't say that, Tom.
1 second. So this body was not set up to recuse people. You're speaking about the Board of Supervisors, where it is appropriate for you to be asked to recuse your vote on any financial matter that comes before you, because those matters usually pertain to taxpayer dollars and governmental funds. Nothing we do at the DCCC has any relationship to taxpayer money. Therefore, we don't fall under the FPPC governmental code regarding conflicts of interest. So you're proposing a pretty high standard. In fact, I think it's an illegal standard. It wouldn't pass First Amendment muster, in my opinion. Now, I don't know that. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a guy who believes that we should have the right to run for an office. We should have the right to be elected, if so determined by the voters. And we should have the right to speak our conscience and vote our conscience before our community. And I don't want to feel like we should decide that this member over here should be recused because he has a conflict of interest because he's a union member. Or this individual over here is related to this individual, so they should be recused. We are not dealing with taxpayer dollars. We're not government officials. We're political activists. We're very good at what we do, and the standard just should not apply to us.
By the way, we're now going to put the judges or judicial candidates on the spot and ask you about this. Member Spear.
Thank you. I just have a point of clarification. Like, first of all, are ex officio members under the conflict of interest too? Is that your intent?
Something we didn't ask the attorney about, so we can. You know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to actually withdraw this motion and ask it to go back to committee so we can look at it. I do see how it can be awkward, and that's a question we didn't ask about.
And then, as long as you're going to do that, I assume also, because it's related, you'll be withdrawing the form as well, because there's a question that I have on the form. It says personal contact information will be redacted from the completed form prior to posting online. I appreciate that, but honestly, I'm not going to give out Congresswoman Spear's home address. I've got too many things to worry about with respect to that. So And I'm not sure that it serves any legitimate purpose on the form anyway.
No.
So if you'll just take a look at that, I'd appreciate it.
Member Ting? Want to echo Member Spear, because I thought maybe we'd had this point brought up before about ex officios and differentiating them from elected members. And I don't know if it's appropriate to insert language saying elected members, but then the problem is you have an appointed member who is not an ex officio, but who was appointed by the chair, but was not elected in their own right. So I think that's something that's worth looking at, because I think there's a whole difference, since the ex officios are actual government agents and they're here. But anyway, and I seconding for Member Spear, I do think that on the member information, if we could put in, like, you know, instead of resident voting address, if we can have a line for like a mailing address or whatever address that we can put in, you know, just for if that's what the member wants. I think that that should be allowed as well.
So we have Member De Jesus withdrawing her motion.
Sure.
We're gonna bring it back to committee, and I would encourage you know, the member who raised the points to go to that committee and have a conversation. The two things that I would say are that, one, I do think on the process that has been outlined, I think that there are some really good points in terms of what's the most practical way that provides for an expeditious action to be taken if there is a misuse of the logo. So I think that we need to look at that. On the point about recusal versus you know, information, I understand what Member Peskin is saying, and I certainly, having been an elected official, believe that those rules are critical. I do think that legally there is a difference between the Board of Supervisors and this body, and so I'm not even sure that legally we could actually go down that path. But even if we could, I'm not sure that I feel comfortable, you know, pushing a recusal. Because I think that there is a difference. As important as I think the point is that you're making, and so, but I do think that there can be additional conversations about that. Member Junker.
I just have a few questions, just for clarification. I read, can you hear me? Okay, good. So I just, you know, I read through these a couple times today, and just like, obviously, so, and I'm asking from a club perspective, okay, because I'm overseeing the Democratic clubs. So when, let's say the Democratic Club puts in their literature chartered by the San Francisco Democratic Party, do they have to come to this body to have the authorization to do that?
So,
if we're chartered, which we are.
So we're going to have a charter club sign this form that they acknowledge the rules in which they can use our name. Once they sign it, and the new charter clubs, it'll be part of the packet. But yeah, once they sign this thing, then they still use the name.
So we don't have to, like, so it's just
not every time you want to use it.
We don't have to every single thing.
No, it's part of the application process, and so we'll catch up with that. And the new application process will have a form that the clubs sign.
Okay, so automatically, because so even though our club may not agree with the DCCC 1,000%, usually it's like half the time or 75% of the time, whatever it is, right? That we won't be disqualified from
using the name
just because we don't always see eye to eye.
No, as long as you follow the guidelines that are in there. No, you just have to sign it once. Okay.
I appreciate that. Okay, and then I guess the other question. Okay, well, that does answer my other question, because I was a little bit worried about the 5-day.
It's going to go back.
Approval process. It just seemed really bureaucratic, and a lot of times in campaigns, things happen so quickly.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be done 72 hours before.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That was a consensus there. We just have to go back and look at that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And I do think that we need to look at the issue of how to treat the ex officio members, and we need to find the right terminology in terms of the 24 seats. Because it's definitely an elected seat, but some have been appointed. Member Kalad.
I just have one comment or question, since this kind of came up earlier tonight with the clubs who are chartering, and I'm curious if the bylaws committee had any discussion around this, or could have discussion, since this is going back to committee, around how we handle clubs that have not chartered yet with the Democratic Party, who are using Democratic Club in their name, and if they are beginning to be public and active. It kind of feels like a little bit of a gray area, and I'm not sure how we want to manage that, but I think it can be confusing to the public if they are already saying they are a Democratic club, but they haven't gone through the formal chartering process.
Member Gupta.
I'd be happy to address that, Member Galata. So the issue is that currently, as they stand, the bylaws say that only chartered clubs can use the name Democratic Party, but not specifically Democratic Club. So if they can only a chartered club could say that they're part of the Democratic Party, that phrase. So this recently occurred with the Eastern Neighborhoods Democratic Club, that they had an event and their name includes Democratic in the name. They were not yet chartered, simply just for a timing reason that they had not yet come before this body. And so after reviewing the bylaws and discussing it with them, we requested that they put an asterisk saying charter pending. So just to clarify, because Democratic in their name, members of the community will most likely presume that they are a chartered Democratic club by having that name Democratic in their name. So then we just requested for future communications until they had received chartering for them to include an asterisk saying charter pending. And then now that they are chartered, they don't have to do that. But the way the bylaws stand right now, it is a gray area because it says they cannot use the word Democratic Party, but it doesn't say the word Democratic. And we talked about it. It wasn't necessarily in the spirit of the bylaws, but it isn't in violation of them to say they're Democratic.
Colleagues, I'm going to try to get us out of here by 9. So these.
Can I just say one other thing? Sorry,
yes.
Chair Campos. I would like to, thank Petra and the rest of the bylaws committees for their work, because I know it's been a lot of time and meetings for this work, and it's and going back and forth with the lawyers. And I'm just hoping that maybe we can have some sort of consensus. Perhaps Member Peskin could have come to the bylaws committee and so that we could bring it before the board, because slate cards and communications will be coming out soon for the June election. So I would love to have something in place as soon as possible to prevent any confusions and be able to provide clarifications.
Well, my expectation is that at the next DCCC meeting, we'll have an up or down vote on whatever comes back to us. Yes, Member Peskin.
Thank you, Chair Campos. And through the chair, I apologize that I was not able. I've been down this road for so many years and it's never gone anywhere, but I really do want to thank Petra and the members of the committee. I think there actually is an action. There are two different things going on here, and I think the conflict of interest issue is the more difficult and controversial one. I think the infringement on the logo issue is much more straightforward, so maybe we can divide them out, and maybe if Member De Jesus is willing, maybe, and that's just in the policies and procedures, and I think in addition to the amendments that Member De Jesus made, unless there's any controversy about it, the provisions that I suggested to section 1.4 seem pretty straightforward, which is if you have an infringement, the chair should, it's not like we're holding a trial. The chair should just discharge his duties relative, or her duties relative to an infringement. So I don't know if there's a willingness here, but I'll restate it, which is that 1.4 read that if the chair or the executive committee determine, and then section A say the chair of the SFDCCC shall consult with legal counsel in order to assess a violation. Period. After receiving advice from counsel, the chair shall take any and all reasonable and necessary steps to preserve the integrity of the DCCC's name and or logo in the endorsement process. Period. So, and cutting out the 5 days and the 10 days and all that stuff.
I think that there's still questions that people have, but Member Baraka.
I just wanted to say, is this all in vain since the item has been pulled?
My suggestion would be that we just come back to this item at the next meeting. No, but I appreciate that.
Okay, so items 9, 10, and 11 will come back. If we can, unless there's any objection, if we can move to item number 14, which is a review and approval of the bids that came in from the request for proposal for our upcoming slate card program. And I'll turn it over to our executive director, Adam, so you can just sort of tell us the process. We issued an RFP. If you could just let us know what came in and what's before us. Right there.
Hi, members. As you may remember from last month, a RFP went live on our website. I know that we made an announcement here at the meeting, and that I think I sent you also an email about that, and that was communicated on our listserv along with our website for this call of RFP. We got one bid that came in from Stearns Consulting that's in front of you all. And if there are any other questions about this, I'm here for that. You can ask me.
Colleagues, so we issued the RFP. We have one proposal. Is there a motion to approve the proposal that came in?
So moved.
Motion by Member Baraka, seconded by Member Lacroix. Any comments or questions?
Can I ask a question? And I really apologize for coming late. I got here as fast as I could. I've just looked over the financial statement. Could someone explain what the $15,000 the federal payables to Stearns Consulting is for? I know it's not.
Yes, that's actually for the communications piece that we approved a while back. So we did a social media campaign that we went out and did a process as well, and we said he was elected through that process. But those are, by the way, the social media ads, the Proud to Be San Francisco Democrat, that included some folks, including Member Mahogany, who's here. So that's what that was for. Yes.
I'd just like to state that the Stearns proposal is an excellent proposal in terms of price. It's really a low price. It's a fair deal for our party. But I would like to recommend to our executive director and chair to try to help redouble their efforts to try to bring in more minority, women-owned consulting firms. I don't know what it is. If it comes down to just price, that's fine. But maybe we need to build in some bonuses for those firms to, incent them to come in and be a part of our process, because the Stearns Consulting firms, excellent firm, they're very professional, but we are trying to spread this out as far and wide as we can.
Point taken, and I think all of us, once, especially when we issued an RFP, if we could promote the RFP and let folks know. But I think we all, need to push to do more of that, and we certainly will try to do that. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The item passes unanimously. And thank you again to Adam for putting it out and for all the work that went into it. Item 15, new business. Colleagues, yes, Member Gupta.
I just I sent an email out last night to all of you about our internship program, so I wanted to just request, we are recruiting for summer interns. They will be with us for about 2 months and approximately working 10 to 15 hours a week. So we are taking applications now. We're looking for high school and college age youth up to sort of about 25. I don't think we have a hard strict age, but we're looking for youth. We really are hoping to get a diverse cross-section of members and interns. It's a really exciting time for our party, so we would love it if you could spread the word to your networks that we're recruiting, and the application's online. It was in the link the email that I sent you all to, the link to the application. So thank you.
Okay, colleagues, anything else? I just want to note that I do have, we have the in memoriam for Sharon Hewitt, and I don't know if anyone would like to say something about, I know that there are a couple of others, but something about Sharon. And the only thing that I would say is that, for me as an elected official, she was someone who I
I certainly turn to provide, especially on some very complicated and challenging issues, a moral compass, you know, and you knew that she was never afraid to tell you what she thought you should do. And that's a very valuable thing to have in San Francisco, and I know that she played that role for so many other people. So I don't know if anyone would like to say anything beyond that.
I think Sharon was also brilliant. She was really very, very smart, and also very aware. I mean, sometimes you would look at Sharon and she would come up with the most profound things, and she was very sensitive. I remember one time she had some people singing in front of my mother's house wishing her a happy birthday, and the neighbors came out, and that was Sharon. Sharon was really an amazing person and a woman warrior.
So I would like to, say something too. Sharon was very, very kind, very smart, but she brought her youth out on a very, very divisive issue on tasers, and she helped us with community meetings with the youth in terms of gathering information from the public, which was heated at times, and getting the comments from tasers and rounding them up for us, and she worked hard for us, and I really did appreciate that.
We spoke extensively about Sharon and all of our personal relations with her over many years at the board on Tuesday. I just want to let everybody know that at Third Baptist Church, Monday at 11 a.m. is her memorial service.
Member John.
Thank you. I actually have my own memorial, but Sharon Hewitt, she was just absolutely the most loving, amazing, energetic, thoughtful activist. One of the many, out in the Bay that I knew, and I was just so floored when I saw the Facebook post that she had passed away. And I mean, it just goes to show that you really need to appreciate each other for what we all bring to the table. I actually we saw each other in passing a couple times every year at different events, and I just wish I would have taken more time. She knew that I was always there for her many times. She did a lot of work with at-risk youth in her community, and a lot of times she'd just call and say, hey, can you help with this? And I said, yeah, sure. But just looking back at it, I just feel this hole that I don't know, maybe I should have done more. But she was just beautiful, and I just want to echo all the comments of what everyone's been saying about her, because she really was, she always had a way of coming out. She came out many times with a bus to register voters during the presidential campaigns, for the Democratic Party. In general, just really, really a good soul. And so I'm really, really sorry to see her pass away. And like the other surprising deaths that have happened recently, it's just, we really just should take a step back and be kinder to each other. Anyway, so the one I want to talk about is, it's actually the son of very prominent West Side Democratic activists, Eileen and Pat O'Sullivan, and they did a lot of work on the West Side, organizing voters, doing voter registration. They had a daughter, Margaret O'Sullivan, who worked in the city and county, just retired a couple of weeks ago, a very active Democrat. And they cared a lot about the Democratic Party. Their son, Dennis, passed away about 3 weeks ago. And, I think that there were memoriams from Joe Ting, David Chu, Scott Wiener, Mark Farrell. I know former Mayor Will Brown gave him a call. So they were very recognized in the community for everything that they've done. So I just want to take this moment to remember him too. So this would be for Dennis O'Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Ting. So I just want to say about Sharon Hewitt. So I met Sharon when I was on Ross McCreary's campaign. I was 25. I had barely done anything in this town. And I met her, and she was the toughest person I had ever met, but she had this heart of gold. She took me under her wing, and she was so, she was so tough as nails when it came to, a little kid like me who didn't know anything. She was so giving of her time and her energy and her expertise, and just really took me under her wing. So I, just like what Mary said, I hadn't seen her as much in a little bit. I was working in different parts of town, I was working on other things, I don't know, just hadn't seen her. And to see that news and to think, oh my gosh, would I have had another chance to talk with her, you know? So I think that meant for all of us to make sure, because you never know when someone might go, treasure every time you might get the chance to interact with them. So, yeah.
Thank you everyone. I have one more in memoriam on behalf of Penny Kelly, and I actually have the honor of knowing this person, and that's okay, and then I'll turn it over to you. Shirley Breyer Black, who died on the 8th of February at the age of 100. She worked as a school secretary in the San Francisco Unified School District and was really an institution in that agency. She was the first female president of SEIU Local 790, which is now SEIU 1021. She was an active and ardent Democrat. Her brother was actually the father of Justice Breyer and Judge Breyer, and actually was the general counsel of the school district, and in many respects wrote the California Education Code for those of us who are education attorneys. So I did not know that she had passed until I saw this note, but we also adjourned her memory. So with that, Member Mann.
Thank God for the youth. Thanks, Member Galata. I would only add that to Shirley Breyer Black, she was also one of the first students at City College when it opened. She was enrolled the first year, and so in addition to all of her other great accomplishments, she was with City College from the beginning.
Wow, well, certainly life is precious, and so today we will be adjourning in the memory of Dennis O'Sullivan, Sharon Hewitt, and Shirley Breyer Black. Thank you, everyone. Seeing no other business, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Hey, how are you? Good. How about you? Yes, yes.